Oh, here's a film for John, scoutcrafter. Hello, John. You all right? He said I was the biggest private collection of nuts and bolts. So I'm going to make a little film for you. And is John correct? Have I got the biggest collection of nuts and bolts and fixings in the world? Well, second in the world, because obviously I'm behind John, of course. Anyway, have a bit of fun. Have a look at this. See what you think. Bye, John. Bye.
Okay, I am a hardware fanatic. I love all kinds of nuts, bolts, and the only person that is more fanatical when it comes to hardware is my buddy Reggie from across the pond. And Reggie has the greatest collection of hardware of anybody in the world, and I'm sure of it. And I'll put money up against anybody that thinks they have more. However, when you look at this isn't just a jar, it's a vessel to hold future hardware.
Oh, my little bunch of nuts and bolto maniacs. Scoutcrafter passed a comment and said, I've got the biggest collection of nuts and bolts and hardware and stuff. So anyway, I thought I'd just have an overall look. We're not going to look too closely. We're just going to sort of have a look at everything, because there's lots of new subscribers, new people subscribed recently, maybe not looked right into the past, but I stem from nuts and bolts. So let's begin in the beginning. The beginning is when we kept nuts and bolts in pots. We've all got a pot full of nuts and bolts, haven't we? And they're always handy to come to. They're always, oh, have you got one of these? Let's dig them out and search them. And it stemmed from, I hate not having stuff. Got little pots with nuts and bolts handy, and, you know, all sorts of threads, all sorts of ages. Remember, I've been doing this for 30 years, and I'm a bit of a washer's look. I don't throw nothing, and I strip everything out generally, or have done over the years. And I do pick them up out of car boots, throw them together. I do, whenever I see them, I try and get them. And we all started, really, didn't we, in gallon cans. We started putting stuff away in drawers, in gallon cans. You out there with gallon cans, or, you know, improvised tubs, keeping your nuts and bolts in them. You know, cut the lid out of a gallon can. Anything sort of collected, you put them in. Started with these drawers, these office drawers. You can tell by the age of the office drawers themselves, everything is kept, or was kept, in a, but you don't know what you got in there. You lose them. You have to tip them out every time you're looking, searching. Tip the pot out, look for what you want, put it back in. It's not ideal, is it? I don't really know how long ago I started. Then I started buying or fetching in new ones, you know. And then I don't know when I started using just whatever's in there is inside. These are fairly recent, because you can tell by the jar. The stickers were really good to get off, and they were good to display. But the newer ones, the much stickier stickers. So I take the clear ones out, put them on the shelf, as you'll see, and then put the ones with the sticky labels, because it don't matter, because you're only looking at the lid. So whatever's on the lid is on the inside. So if I need to put stuff on a shelf that I need to see, I'll put a sticky label here. Yeah, and some are more modern, some are more than others. Anyway, different types, whatever comes along and whatever fits. Some of these might be overflow jars. These might be jars that I've got a bigger jar full, but I had a bit left, so I put them in a smaller jar. So you don't generally need a big jar full, and you'll see in a minute why I have, you know, everything goes in a jar. It's all kept, it doesn't perish. There's all sorts of sizes and types. It's just whatever you're looking for on the day. Yeah, whatever you put in. Even who keeps weights? How do you keep them? Obviously in glass jars. And yeah, you do get breakages. slamming them in and out like this, you do get, sometimes you got a mix. So when they're obviously two different things, but they'll fit in one jar, I sometimes do that. But I go little stuff, big stuff, all sorts of, you know, whatever I can get my hands on. And of course you do put stuff in jars, and sometimes you've got to spend a couple of hours getting them on the lids. These are stuff that I've put into jars, and I haven't yet made a little hole in the lid to put them on the top. Yeah, because you know, I carry a spare, a supply of empty jars. Anything comes, go in the jar. So I've yet to do them yet. Yeah. Just as an example of how good they keep, because obviously I do put older stuff in there as well. That's a bit, I always give them a good drink of WD-40. This looks very dry. Oh, we'll do that whilst we think about it now. We'll put some WD in there. Yeah, that looks, you can use all sorts of mixes or whatever, but I have found, you know, whenever, because some of these have never been opened. These could have been sitting here for 10 years or more. You just, whatever you use, whatever you need at the time, you know, you just pick them up and use them, whatever you're looking for. But one on the lid, whatever's on the lid is on the inside. This is a pretty good example. Can you see how this is quite perished, quite rusty? It's been sitting outside on the surface. Whereas if you open the lid, they're still perfectly good and healthy inside. Obviously, when you take the lid off, always get yourself in a habit, or even now and again, go around, just give them a little drink. Just, you know, keep them going. But if this was outside on a box in the air, you can see how rusty they get. And you can see how much just sitting in a jar with a bit of WD or, you know, oil or whatever, how they do survive quite well. Much better. I hate them in cardboard boxes. Look, that's how they went in there however many years ago. Obviously that it's only in an unheated shed. That's how, if you'd left them out in the open, they would perish. Yeah. So there's a mix of old and new, and whatever comes along goes in there, you know. You'd be surprised how much these steel cabinets hold in weight-wise. Here's another pretty. I even put rotten ones in there, but you give them a good drink, they keep this. Just probably a Hope Whitworth or an odd size or something. I put all sorts of mixtures in. Even put switches in there. All sorts of everything goes in, wherever it'll fit. I find this is just like a small handful of stuff, you know. Great for the smaller stuff. Yeah, and there's still some down here, look. Some of them goes in brand new. Some of it's quite old, some of them. But you just never know what you're looking for. I hate not having, you know, you're doing a project, you're doing a job. I just hate not having anything you can just turn to and get and use. So then we get to the first sort of shelving. Then you get yourself shelves, you don't you? You like your nuts and bolts. You put them in jars and you put them on shelves. So you can see what you want. You just, and you know, you've seen how these arrive. Anything that comes on, it's all kept in a jar with a drink, you know what I mean? All sorts mixed. I've got some up here, look. Some YTBS yet to be sorted up there. I'll show you a bit more about those in a minute. Yeah, so I've got these. It's not my ideal shelving, but it's not. The trouble is, the deeper your shelves, the more you get lost. There's 2 and 3 behind here. Ideally, you should have whatever you've got plus any excess behind it. That would be an ideal situation, but obviously there's that much stuff. You need that much space to keep it, you know. So that would start off on the lid. Whatever's the plan was, whatever's here, at least you know we've got it. We've got a jar of them somewhere. We've got a jar of these. We've got a jar of that. Whatever you want, whatever you're looking for. they should be here. But of course, over the years, you don't put them back, you lose them, you know. But that was an idea of, do you remember picking these out the car boot? Look, been picking those washers up. So I buy them wherever, however, and fair play, I have had a lot of a lot of, what's it called? Donations. A lot of people give me a lot of stuff, but they all need sorting. I'll show you a bucket full how they come in, and then I sort them all out, which is all part of the fun. And look, even the pillar in the garage, just thin them out. That's what I say. These are great because the labels just rip off. Now the labels are pretty sticky to get on. So, and you always carry spare jars. So we've got them here as well. Look, and we've got. It's buried. Hold on. Similar. This is sort of similar. Let me just show you a similar jar. Not very good at keeping or sorting. I'm very patient sorting the small stuff. I tend to sort all the big stuff and end up with the small stuff. And this is called YTBS. Yet to be sorted. I need a big table and a lot of patience. But all the small stuff, I do have small stuff that are separated. But I do have a hell of a lot of YTBS. Yeah, and I've been retired a year and I haven't even started sorting it yet. But obviously that translates into lots of smaller jars or lots of bit singly, you know, if you separated them all out into each what they are, how much more shelving would you need for that? That's the thing with it, isn't it? And we do big bolts. I remember, because of course I'm a truck driver, aren't I? So we do go to a lot of places, and the first place you look, first of all you find the address, you get to the address, and then you look in the skip. What's in the skip? It's crazy. What, somebody was going past me with a forklift. Here mate, you're not throwing that away mate. Oh, can I have a few of them bolts please? Yeah, always ask. I just happened to be in a place delivering where they made Ely, was it? Where they made gunshot. And this was lying around on the floor, and I said, excuse me mate, can I have a crisp bag full of shot? That's how that came about. This is the same. It's the same sort of shot that goes into a... And you just... If you see something interesting that you could put in a jar on your shelf, maybe sometime, maybe that might come in. That's lead shot, isn't it? I don't know what that is. Same but shiny. But they belong into like 12-bore cartridges. And the stuff, obviously in a factory, they use tons and tons of it. And all I want is a little bit so I can take home, put it in a jar, put the jar on my shelf. That's the mentality of it all. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And we've got bits and pieces here. Yeah. Square bolts. Now, as you can see, I use a lot. A nut and a bolt isn't just a nut and a bolt. A nut and a bolt. A bolt is a keep. It's a hole, isn't it? A bolt is a portable hole to be welded wherever I want to weld it. Yeah. And a bolt. This is a bolt. Look, with the threads grounded off. So a bolt isn't a threaded bolt. A bolt is a shaft. You can do so much stuff with your nuts and your bolts, but it's a fixing, but it's also a mobile hole to be welded, because drilling holes is a big problem, isn't it? Especially when you want a bigger hole. Always weld and shim one down, a big one down, but you can't always make a big hole. Oof, yeah. There's cupboards of nuts and bolts here. I've been moving recently. I'm in the process of working and tidying up. It doesn't matter what you open up, you will find nuts and bolts anywhere. You open a drawer in here and we've got nuts and bolts everywhere, stuffed wherever I can. It's just, if you've got them quite big, you're as well off just getting a piece of old bed chain, put the bed chain together, make one big chain and just cable tie them. Not big enough, just cable tie them to one chain and make a a string of them, as you might say. So if I want one, whatever I choose, and just snap the cable tie, I've got what I want, haven't I? I do hang them. I haven't got many. I've got big bolts, but not many. You just never know what you land on, what comes through the door, what comes in handy, you know. You just never say no to nothing, do you? Yeah, bigger the better. But of course, they represent more money to the people that are giving them away, so you don't get them that often, but it's nice when you do land on them. Again, we've all got these trays, but if you leave stuff outside in the open on these trays, they perish, don't they? Yeah. And we can go to as big a stuff as we want, or as smaller stuff as we've got. What have we got there? Hold on. That there a minute. Was that the smallest thing we do? Oh, it might be. I've got some more somewhere. I've got some tiny little grub screws, which I think is the smallest thing that I keep. I also, let's zoom right in. I also keep these, look. Little tiny grub screws. How do you even make that many? If you want to play a counting game, how about counting them? How many of those little grub screws are in there? It's not very focused, is that, is it? Hold on. Yeah. If you want to play counting games, how many grub screws in there? Definitely a lifetime's worth, isn't it? Doesn't matter how many pairs of glasses or how many aerials come loose, we've definitely got enough grub screws to last us a lifetime there, haven't we? Yeah, we keep our JKN, you know, stuff that we've picked up and bought. There's trays and trays of screws, of wood screws, all sorts of fixings. Getting a bit heavy, that. Oh, why won't that do there? Well, there's all sorts in these drawers. And then here I tend to keep stuff, smaller volumes, you know, just how do you keep? You get a little bag of something like this and you get a dozen. How do you keep? When will you use that? Who knows? What does it do? Who knows? But I've come across them, I've landed on them. So this is where I keep my smaller amounts, plus my little smaller sort of fixing smaller stuff. So if you want something tiny, we can be messing around in here, digging around, looking. You know, sometimes you want a stainless steel or a chrome or a brass thing or something. So that's what I keep in here. And here, to try and fill the drawer up, I've only got a small amount of these. So there's a definite difference between them and them, so they can go in a drawer mixed together. When there's a different colour, because I've only got a tiny amount of these. So how do you generally keep a tiny amount of whatever? So you just mix them with something that's completely different so you can see them. And it doesn't waste a drawer with a small amount in. And sometimes they're just mixed. Sometimes you want a small washer, you've got to dig around and find a small washer, you know. But these are where I keep all that. Again, two definite differences. You're not keeping one drawer half full with stuff, because I do struggle with hanging on to stuff. Where do I put it all? And then where can you find it easily? Yeah, right. And stupid things. The odd bracket, these come along. How do you look after them, and how will you find them again? What are these? What do they do? Who knows? But they're here. And if we look in, we might find them. Yeah. So these go all the way down. Oh, I've got a few spare ones down there, but right at the bottom. Let's go back up there and try again. And this is where I put a sensor light. So it doesn't come on all the time. It only comes here to light up these doors when I come here. So the sensor light has been a great addition to a dark corner. And it only comes on, you're not burning electric and lighting up a place that you don't go to very often. The light only comes on when I come here. And again, we've got all sorts and everything kept in little drawers. And it's generally searching, what have you got? Right, where do you generally keep them, you know? And I've got an idea, but you can't know everything all the time. Again, look, half this, half that. They're easily separated. Little brackets. We must go back to Aldi, where do we get them little tubs of brackets from? See, how do you keep a small amount of anything? That's the problem, isn't it? Yeah. I've only got a dozen or 2 dozen of them. But how do you keep them so you can get to them easily and fairly quickly? Let's keep going. Let's. Because trouble is, I build and build and build, and everything gets tighter and tighter everywhere you go. You're always rubbing up against something that you built. Obviously, when I made this set of shelves weren't there. Anyway, and odd. We've all got these sort of stuffing tubs, haven't we? That you fairly hardly ever look at. But all my tubs, all my everything is always full. Anyway, I think that's this room, this shed, this garage, fairly well explained to you. Let's go to the stores now. That's why I've been building up my cupboards. Need more space. So I'd like to say this is my best invention. The best way to keep them. A, in jars that you can see them. They're not in boxes. You're not looking for sizes. B, the shelves aren't big enough to carry 2. So what you see is what you get. And it doesn't take a lot of room. So if you're a bit stuffed for space, it only takes a jar thickness off the room, doesn't it? It only makes the shed, the garage, the space one. So this is my favourite, and this here is the overflow. So you see that's been full to the neck, so that means I had more than them. So the other half might be in the back there in maybe a smaller jar. So I try to only bring full jars here. All the jars are as full as I can get them. This is the full storage jar section. Yeah. So generally, if they're here, see that's a bit short. So maybe there wasn't any extra on that one. But if I can get them to fill in these, they come in here. So part of the reason I like this is, first of all, it's in a glass jar, so it'll survive outside in just a garage. Second of all, it's only one, so you're not burying, you're not having to pull this one to see what's behind it or the one behind that. It's great that way. And I pitched the idea, L&S Engineering off their shop, but what I like particularly about this one is whatever is here on the shelves. I thought this was a brilliant brainwave. Got the plank, look, whatever is here. So let's pick something odd. C for now. Here now it's sectioned A, B and C. Shelf number 1, shelf number 2, shelf number 3, shelf number 4, shelf number 5, shelf number 6. And it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. So let's pick something odd and different. For argument's sake, let's pick this. Some sort of fixing, something that's come along somewhere. And I've got a jar of them. Right, so that is in C4, which means not area A, not area B, area C. Area C, number 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it should be And I'm saying should. I'm saying should. It should be C4 along here somewhere. And here they are, look. So how quick is that to find? It's simple. Simple. Doesn't take much space. You can still fill your shelves full of your stock and still find stuff. So this is my best preferred way. And look, they're only 1 jar deep all the way around. So you're using the walls, but you're not using the space of the room very much. And yeah, we've all got shelves full of stuff, haven't we? Yeah, let's do a bit more. We're not finished yet. Before we leave this room, we've got stuff, right? We've got too much to put in a little jar, so we put it in a big jar. So put it in a big jar, it comes in here. So let's say you've got 3 or 4 jars here full of the same thing. Where is the next port of call? How do you keep 4 jars of one thing? See them fixings over here? There's not quite so much of them. But let's say you had 1, 2, there's 2 there. There's 3 jars of fixings. What if you had more that had come in, and where do you keep them? Come on, let's go and have a look. So, as you know now, and everybody knows, I'm a bit of a nuts and bolts nutter collector lunatic. And I got offered these and I thought, plastic, oh, what are they going to do? Are they any good? Can I make use of those? Yeah, and I got given a whole load of these as well that were going to go to the skip, going to get rid of. And, you know, obviously my connection of jar suppliers, vast and many. Reggie, got a glass jar for you. Reggie, knock. Reggie, got a glass jar for you. Are these any good? Yeah, these are brilliant. I've just got to come up with an idea. What am I going to do? How am I going to use them? Well, what inspired me to build this unit here? Now, these are when I've got even more stuff and they've got to go into bigger jars. I mean to put one on the lid of them. But these are when I've got lots, way more stuff than you can put in little jars. And you can keep the odd stuff like the caps, you know, odd things like that. And these, some have got a little bit more, some have got a little bit less. Some of them are full, you know. Fixings again, we've got these all sorts of types and different tech screws. And some of them are fuller than others. Yeah. So you build to what you got. I built these shelves because I had these jars. These jars what came first? The shelf or the jar? The jars in this case. And then we had the blue ones as well. Okay, I fill all my shelves full of garbage, so I shouldn't. When it's clear, when this was first built, you know, everything worked well because the ones on the back slightly raised up, so you could have the one on the front, which is fine. You could see behind. So we've got nuts and bolts in here. And what happened was, I built this, and I still didn't have enough space. Built this, yeah. Well, we transferred it from the other place in the back shelves. So in the same theme of what we did, we've been changing tanks, haven't we? There's air tanks everywhere and wood everywhere. But in the same theme, if anything that's in here is on there. So first of all, you want to know, have you got it? And yes, we've got it. Then you got to know where to find it, which, as you've seen so far, isn't really easy, is it? So that's what this did. And this surface is meant to be clean. There's nuts and bolts there, there's nuts and bolts here. So I hope you believe Scoutcrafter when he says I'm one of the biggest. And not collecting for collecting's sake. I just hate not having a solution. You know, you have a spare and a spare and a spare, don't you? When you have something, you have a spare one. But that's no good, because once you've used what you're using your spare one, and you haven't got a spare one. So you always need what you're using, a spare one and a spare one, just in case this runs out and you're on your spare one. Yeah. Anyway, depends on how you think of things. So, yeah. And I do obviously don't use all of it. Some of the stuff must stay in these jars for years and years, but you just never know the day that you want it. It's going to be the right thing, isn't it? So, yeah. This is a film to back up John Scoutcrafter's claim that I am, okay, the second biggest collectioner in the world. I hope you enjoyed that. I thought we'd finished, because we've only been talking about the stuff we've only been talking about the stuff that we've been sorting. There's still lots and lots of stuff that arrives that needs sorting. Yeah, because it doesn't come organised. I organise it all. All this stuff is in these cupboards and all fixings of one sort or another. All nuts and bolts type things. That's why I like them cupboards, and them you just, whatever you want, you just pull out it up high out the way. And I have got a bucket down here that we need, which it's been here over a year to the time. Especially the older stuff, this is how it arrives. And we haven't sorted this bucket out yet, have we? So a lot of the supply, a lot of the stuff arrives in random mixed up buckets. And these have to be all cleaned, and we've gone through a session of them, haven't we? Where we put them in the mixer, in the concrete mixer with a bit of oil, and cleaned them all up and separated them away. This is all Whitworth, all vintage stuff, this is. Wow. I bet there's some oops. I bet there's some goldies in there. But yeah, and that bucket must have been here. How old is that bolt, and what thread is that? And yeah, we do. The other day we were looking for some, didn't we? And we couldn't find any, but we did eventually. I get great pleasure out of finding just the right ones. They were the right one, that's metric. Just the right ones with the right thread, doing the right job. And I do get a lot of pleasure out of that. There's a bucket we must sort out one of these days. It's been here for over a year, that bucket. Just going to explain a few rules about Reggie's shed, what works in Reggie's shed. So you're using this knife needs a blade. Okay, so this you put a blade in there and you blunt it. You know, it only does one cut, so you're on a heavy job. So okay, you've got plenty of blades. These blades belong on the knife. They usually come 5 at a time, don't they? Yeah. But then you always need a spare set of blades. You know, this is you know, a basic. You always need a spare of something, a spare of whatever, however, whatever it might be. But the trouble is, it's fine having some and then using them and then using the spare. But now you're using these, they're gone. You're using these, but you've got no spares for these spares, have you? No. So the rule is spares. So when you've got something you're using, that's your working amount, you've got spares just in case, you know, you need some, you break them, you know. Then you always need, but once you've used them, you've got these, but you've got no spares for these. Spares. So that's how it works in this place. Yeah. You always need spares and spares. Yeah, and then you'll never run out, will you? You'll get the job done. That's why I buy blades 100 at a time. And they end up being cheaper anyway. Nothing worse than using something. This could be anything. It just represents. And then all of a sudden, oh, I haven't got any. Oh, I've got to go off to B&Q to go and find some. I've got to go to the local hardware store. Blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? If you really want to be double and treble safe, spares and spares. How many of you have bought, this could be just anything, but how many of you bought this and you've bought it at a good price, and then you've used it and you thought, oh, and you go back and it's double the price and you think, oh, damn, why didn't I buy it when I bought it? Because it would have been cheaper, it would have saved me money, and I wouldn't run out of it, and I wouldn't have to be going looking for it now. I'd have plenty in the stores. So the same rule applies. If you've got one, you've got to have two. And if you've got two, you've got to have four. And if you've got four, then you've got to have 8. You know, because you won't run out again then, will you? Then if you've got 8, then you have to have another 8 to go with it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm not going to run out of WD-40 anytime soon, and I can wait until it comes to a better price, or at least I bought these all at a good price. So when the price does go up, and things, they never come down, do they? Things only ever go up. So yeah, that's the rule. If you've got 1, you need 2. If you've got 2, you need 4. If you've got 4, you need 8. And if you've got 8, you need 16. Plus a few spares. If you've not got one within arm's reach, you at least need one on every shelf doing something somewhere. You've got your stock, but you've always got to have one hiding, sitting on a corner somewhere.